Valentine's Day is a perfect opportunity to not only be kind to others, but to also be kind to ourselves. We make mistakes. We chew on them. We ruminate on them. We allow them to dominate thoughts that otherwise would have been just fine. It's kindness to ourselves. And how do you get to that? Well, practicing kindness outwards really helps get kindness inwards.
Valentine's Day typically centers around red roses, chocolates, greeting cards, and romance. However, a Kansas State University child development specialist believes it can also be a time for kindness. On today's Sound Living, being kind to others and to ourselves. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles says that Valentine's Day celebrates love, but a key component of that is kindness. Bradford, Valentine's Day is one of those days that everybody looks forward to, but in a way it can also be for young children, I understand, a little bit of an area where sometimes there is a little bit of fear. There's that fear of rejection. But there are some things that we can do at home, though, that show them how much they're loved there, and that carries over.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as children in the school system start to get older and older, the romantic component of Valentine's Day starts to emerge. And that's where some of that anxiety and the social dynamics that we all experience growing up occur. At home, it's really a chance for parents and primary caregivers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, to use that time as a chance to express love, comfort, and support on days leading up to and on the day, their love and affection for their child in ways that are very healthy, that clearly don't have the romantic component, but it definitely is a great place to leverage the chance to really talk about how much you love your child and supporting them and making them feel loved and included.
One of the words I saw that kind of took me back a few years was gratitude. It's not a word that you hear often, but really that's kind of what we're talking about, is just being grateful for their presence in a way.
Yes, the gratitude at what they bring to you. So we typically have this viewpoint, and I am as guilty of this as anyone, that we do things for children, and our children rarely, if ever, do anything for us. But the reality is, if you ask parents, they will describe parenting and having children as the most joy you'll ever have. The higher purpose, all of these things that we as parents describe as the huge benefit, yet we don't identify in real time what those things are. Valentine's Day gives you a chance to provide that gratitude, that recognition for the love that both you feel to them, but most importantly, the love that you receive from your children. And so it's a really good opportunity to help your children understand that they're a partner in this relationship too, that they bring you joy, they bring you that feeling of love and satisfaction, and to let them know that it's not just a one-directional, top-down type of dynamic, that they love you, and to honor that and to pay respect to what they bring to the table can go a long way. It's empowering for them. It helps them understand their own agency, meaning that it helps them understand that they're not just being acted on by the world, but they can act on the world as well.
And I know you probably have some of these stuck in a drawer as well, but I know that my wife and I have a bunch of cards that our kids made for us specifically for Valentine's, and those are things that parents hang on to. I don't know why, but we do.
Well, I can tell you why, because they tug at your heartstrings. They're expressions of love that often our children aren't exactly prone to, particularly, very young children. They just don't quite have the full concept, right? Like they are still developing an understanding of what love means. Like we say I love you to our kids all the time. Of course we do. And they say it back to us. But we as adults, have a much more concrete understanding of the totality of what love means. For young children, it's really, for adults, the cards are good markers of their formal expressions of love that we can hang on to, that we can also see over time. And so I think we hang on to them because it's a rare glimpse into their understanding of what love is, and it's an exceedingly rare chance for them to give a gift because and only because they love you.
And speaking of gifts, there's always the store-bought stuff you can do, the candy, animals, and all that kind of stuff. But there's also things we can do together that really even make the holiday a little bit more special.
Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough that stuff does not make people happy. I have tried. It doesn't make people happy. For years, I have said the optimal number of guitars is 1 plus the number of guitars you have right now. I can tell you can only play one at a time. And the same goes for stuff for kids, right? There can be an excessive amount of things, toys, candies, trinkets. Those don't really bring anything other than that initial curiosity. If you've been around kids, you'll know immediately that within 3 days, almost everything that your child has received is going to be uninteresting very shortly after. You know, it's natural. It's the same for any of us, right? It's just that taking the time to be with your child, to spend that time together, doing something special as part of Valentine's Day rather than giving something special is a totally different dynamic, and one that your child has a much better chance of remembering. But even if they don't remember it, even if cognitively they're not forming long-term memories, this is really critical for people who are listening. It still shapes the way their brain works. It still builds these neurological pathways. So while there might not be an opportunity to recall the exact memory, the dynamics of that memory still influence our neurobiology. And so I can't emphasize enough that the trinket isn't having that same effect as the love and kindness and compassion and activity that you give to children. That is a gift. That is a true gift. The toys, the trinkets, the cards, those can go along with, but you'll never get the same sort of benefit from any of those things that you get from quality, kind, loving, supportive, responsive relationships with your children.
And this is really a nice opportunity to maybe think about a baking project. I understand that you can't always bake a cake from scratch, but there's a lot you can do that's semi-homemade, or you can find cookie dough that's pre-made. And it's really the process that you're going through, not necessarily the end product in this case.
Yeah, you got it. In almost every domain in which I provide parent education, I typically refer to all of these activities as jumping off points. So my early work was in emergent literacy, shared reading of picture books. Then I moved on to using dance as a family engagement technique, done some work on helping parents understand the brain in young children and using that as a means to help them understand what cool activities can be done. But all of these things are jumping off points, right? It's not the product. Getting through the book is not the goal, right? Engaging about the book is the goal. Getting the cookies is not the goal. That's a great bonus, and it can be a really nice enticement, but the goal is the interaction that you have around it. It's the process. It's talking through, hey, what do you think this cookie is going to look like? Hey, should we try to make this a heart? What are your favorite cookies? Why are they your favorite cookies? Exploring and understanding, and again, that shared time together, and especially on a process like this where you're working towards the same goal. That's the thing. That's the joy of parenting. Yes, you might remember eating the cookies, but you'll remember eating the cookies only because the process leading up to actually getting to eat them was the fun part.
This is also an opportunity for parents who have multiple children to really bring everybody together, because I think sometimes we want to go one-on-one with our children, but it's also important that children understand this loving concept amongst themselves.
Yes. And you kind of caught me there, because I often will talk in terms of a single parent and a single child. We know that's not the case, right? For most parents, they're parenting more than one child. And yes, the idea of sharing love across with our siblings, I don't know about you, I fought with my siblings. I figure for most people, that's not unheard of.
At least once or twice.
Right. Just, just a couple of times, right? Of course. Just ask my parents. But the fundamental truth there is you do love your siblings. You do. Your children are better because of their siblings. Yes, there are conflicts, of course, but you can use time like that to show love and affection to each of them, and for them to feel more comfortable showing love and affection to their siblings. And when we talk about love, I just want to be clear, I know Valentine's Day is focused on romantic love. The reality is, for young children, that not only might not mean anything, but if it does, it's probably pretty unappealing. So recognizing that it's more about celebrating love as a whole concept, and to use, your term, in gratitude for the people in your lives who love you and you love them.
I think another thing I saw also talked about that this is about being kind. This is a day for being kind to one another as well.
Yes. Yeah, kindness. One of the things that I always convey to people when they're engaged in any grief or loss, because we're always at a loss for words of what to say, and I know this is an aside, Jeff, but I always implore people to be kind to themselves. The reason that I implore them to do that is it's really easy to not be kind to ourselves. Valentine's Day is a perfect opportunity to not only be kind to others, but to also be kind to ourselves, right? We make mistakes. We chew on them. We ruminate on them. We allow them to dominate thoughts that otherwise would have been just fine. It's kindness to ourselves. And how do you get to that? Well, practicing kindness outwards really helps get kindness inwards. And it's that way for everything. And so I think fundamentally, you're exactly right. We talk about love. A key component of that is kindness. Kindness to our partners, kindness to our children, kindness from siblings to siblings, and then, of course, kindness to our classmates and our peers. That's the kind of love that everyone can practice.
And I think we've talked about this in the past, but really learning all these things at an early age is so important.
Absolutely. Without question. The reality is the earlier that you learn about expressing feelings, about having empathy, understanding what other people are doing and feeling and thinking, and making a habit of being kind, the easier it is for you to do that throughout your lifespan. And I can tell you, people who practice kindness, people who practice gratitude are just healthier, happier, better adjusted people. The research bears that out unequivocally. And it's not that they're kind because they're healthy and happy. They're healthy and happy because they're kind. And so it really does set the stage for all of our life's trajectories, because it's the foundation on which we build things. And we see this in the at-risk literature, right, where we see children who have an orientation towards fear and suspicion. Generally, those things are born out of experience, but the same thing holds true. It sets the stage for a lifetime of need for corrective action. Now, I want to be really clear there. We can overcome some of those things throughout our life. It's just that the mountain that you have to climb is a molehill if you're already practicing kindness from an early age.
That's K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles. More information on child development is available at county and district extension offices and on the extension website, ksre.ksu.edu. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.